What's poppin', you Jimmy Bits?
Yeah.
It's your boy CAMEL here with
StubbornWeeb.
We're Misheard Nerds. This is our weekly podcast. We've missed like 2 weeks or a week.
Yeah, you see, the thing that sucks about these is that you need 2 people to make them work.
Yeah.
And Austin was doing something or other a couple weeks ago, and last week I had the flu. So it's like, this isn't really going to work for either of these weeks. And then we didn't put out any other content either.
Yeah. Why didn't you?
School.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was.
So, what you been playing?
So, I have been playing Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which I've just got to say, beautiful remake. I love it.
Yeah.
First I was like, oh, this runs a little too slow, and I started looking at it, I'm like, nah, this is some good stuff. And I just kept playing it while I was, it just kept me so happy while I was sick. I was like, oh, this brings back memories. I remember probably faking being sick to get out of school to play the original.
Yeah.
Just such a good remake. If you haven't checked it out, you should. My only gripe with it is kind of what you said with well, it's what Medieval didn't have the remake. You said you could unlock the classic game.
Yeah.
I wish you could unlock the classic games in the Reignited trilogy.
Yeah.
Or like Crash or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll talk about that more later because you guys know what today's topic is because you should have read the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not done.
Okay.
I've also played the original Final Fantasy VII. I have a video on Crisis Core coming out, so I was gonna just, play the original. And I've gotta say, it's actually pretty fun. I've been playing it to where I've turned off all combat encounters that I don't have to do. In any combat encounter I go into, I'm invincible and I have limits all the time.
Oh.
Because I don't like the gameplay. And no, actually what it was, I remember I was like, I'm going to try the gameplay. And then I had a setting activated to where no enemies would appear. And I went through the game a little bit like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, these enemies are destroying me. And after a while, I found out that the game had random enemy encounters. So I was probably, drastically underleveled. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go grind or restart. I'm already, 2 or 3 hours in the game. So I just kept going along with it. From what I can tell, though, the gameplay system doesn't look that awful. It looks kind of fun. It's turn-based, but everything moves. There's no stopping and waiting.
Okay.
That's what I've been playing, and both good games. You? Also the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, and he has 2.
Mm-hmm. So what I've been playing the Sims 4, got that free with PlayStation Plus. I like it a lot, actually. I've never really been a huge fan of a lot of video games like that.
Just you should have left it at that.
Video games.
I actually really don't like video games. You just get up and leave.
Yeah. Well, it's I like the life sim type of games, I guess.
Yeah. And
I think there's something that's inherently different about The Sims, just because it's it's not and I'm playing it the way you're supposed to play it too. I'm not I'm going to build a house without any doors and trap it,
I remember my boss. No, that's kind of fun though. I was playing Sims 3 and my boss I just invited him over and I trapped him.
Yeah, but I'm actually playing it correctly and stuff, and it's pretty fun. I am not doing anything like you said, trapping everyone in rooms or or making sure there's no way for them to get access to food or stuff like that. But overall, I've been having a really fun time. I've been playing a little bit more VR. I played a tiny bit more Skyrim. I played what was it called? No Man's Sky in VR. That was pretty crazy stuff, dude.
Was that fun?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I think that's really it. I've been playing. I just play a little bit of VR here and there, but other than that, I've mainly been playing Sims 4 and Sims 4.
Well, you've been a busy boy.
Yeah, I guess. Not really. I mean, it's just Sims.
And No Man's Sky.
Well, I only played that like 2 times.
No Man's Sky!
Okay.
Yeah. He's so cute, guys.
So that was it. That's all I'm playing.
Yeah. Let me think. I was about to think about what I've been playing, but I just talked about that. So, I guess it is time for us to thrust ourselves into the topic. Thrust. Hold, firmly grasp, and thrust. That's not the saying.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought I was onto something, but I don't think that's a thing. I thought I was quoting something, and after I said it, I'm like, no, none of that. I think I merged 3 different quotes together.
There's the firmly grasp it from SpongeBob, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where you're getting the thrust from.
I heard a quote with thrust.
I mean, probably, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so anyway, on to the topic today. After we played the Final 7 FFBII, I can't get Final Fantasy 7 out. Oh, there we go. It wasn't coming out. It sounded weird. After we played that, we thought...
The remake demo was pretty good.
Yeah, so we were sitting around here, about 10 minutes before the podcast started, and we were like, what are we actually going to talk about? And then we were like, that demo, that was pretty good. And we're like, let's talk about how
remakes.
Just how we feel about them. And just to clarify for those of you out there who don't know what the difference between a remaster and a remake is, because I see this all the time and it frustrates me so much.
Yeah.
A remake is a complete recreation from the ground up, usually has new music, graphics, everything, because it's being built from the ground up.
Yeah, it can, usually it is, the same game, but it has, it can be, the gameplay's different, or, the graphic style's different. Like, Spyro is very faithful to the original.
Yeah, and you can have faithful and, new interpretation remakes. Final Fantasy VII is more of a new interpretation.
Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
Those are reinterpretive remakes. And then there's also the faithful remakes. And I think I feel differently about each of those, depending on the execution.
Yeah, I think a good, faithful remake should have, it shouldn't be, too faithful to where it's inconvenient to play. It shouldn't feel like, oh, I
just picked up a PlayStation 1 game.
Yeah, and then there's also remasters, which are just, a lot of times they'll just be HD up-reses. Look at the Final Fantasy VII, the original re-release that came out for Switch, Xbox One, PS4, PC, all that.
All the re-releases of Skyrim.
Yeah, all the...
Except, I think, was Skyrim... Special Edition of Skyrim a complete remake?
No, it's just up the visuals.
Yeah, it is.
That'd be really weird if they just lost the source code because they're like, guys, time to make Skyrim again.
Well, I remember the only reason that it was, remastered or whatever was because they had a different studio that they were just testing out. They're like, yeah, go ahead and mess around with Skyrim.
Oh.
And then they're all like, hey, it looks really pretty now. And they're all like, hey, let's put that on the new consoles.
Yeah, and then they made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remasters and remakes are 2 different things. Remasters are something that it is literally just the base game, but then it has an HD up-res, or they touch up textures,
Or they'll add menu options or things you couldn't do in the game, like how the Final Fantasy VII, the one I'm playing. It gives you a no combat option at 3 times speed to get through some of the clunky PS1 slowness.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that for quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they run better too because they're old games.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, but we're not gonna be talking about remasters today.
No.
We might at some point, but
they'll probably slip in there a little bit here and there, but
yeah. And I do feel that some remasters can do things better than some faithful remakes do.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then also sometimes remasters are like so much better than the original that people think they're remakes.
Yeah.
Like I've seen that happen before.
Yeah, I know the Resident Evil 4 remaster is really good.
Mm-hmm. Most of the Resident Evil remasters are like you'd be playing them and you're all like, "Wow, this isn't a remake." Just playing the first Resident Evil, like if you compare that game to the original version of Resident Evil, you look at the two and then you're like, "Wow, this is just a remaster." Well, there was a remake at one point, and then they've been remastered. Yeah, they've been remastering the GameCube
remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, like you do, even if you compare the GameCube version to the new current console versions, you're like, wow, there's a big difference.
It's kind of funny that they remade the first one and then they just stop remaking them for a while and they're like, Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah.
Like
well, they went and remastered a lot of them.
I know, but it's just funny how they completely remade the first one so early on, and then we waited like a good long time before they remade another.
Over 10 years.
Yeah, it definitely over.
Yeah.
When I don't know when the first remake come out. It would have had to have been like between 2002 to 2005.
Yeah, around there, like when the GameCube was a thing.
Yeah. That's a little weird. Now they're probably gonna have to remake the remake of the first one at some point.
Oh yeah, probably. I think it's really interesting the remakes that are coming out for the Resident Evil. Whoa, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
This happens at least once every episode.
But
it's a tradition now. You can't stop.
I really think it's cool that they're remaking Resident Evil 2. They remade Resident Evil 2, and then now they're remaking Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited. I'm kind of... I have Resident Evil 2 Remake. I played it quite a bit. I probably got about 10 hours in or so. And then I was just like... realized I was playing it on my dad's friend's Xbox.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to keep playing this.
I won't be able to save all my stuff.
Yeah, so I stopped. And then I just haven't picked it up since. Even though, like, what I did play of it, I enjoyed very, very much.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good game. I'm a bit worried because Mr. X, I always hid in safe rooms to get away from him, but I heard Nemesis in 3 will just go into safe rooms.
Mm-hmm. There was a... I'm curious how they're going to handle Nemesis in 3, because Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, he would show up in scripted scenes and stuff. He wouldn't just be randomly roaming around and stuff, and you'd run into him. And now in the remake, I don't know if they've said this, but is he going to be like a Mr. X type of thing? Like he's just going to be roaming around and...
I sure hope not.
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
I've seen the gameplay and stuff they released for it, and I think the game looks a lot better than the 2 remake. It's giving me what I really wanted in that game, and that's to explore the city.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited for this one.
Yeah. Do you think that... Oh, crap, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Oh, do you think they're going to go and, like, remake other Resident Evil games as well?
Like... I know a lot of people want them to remake Code Veronica.
Oh, yeah. I think that's, like, one of the mainline Resident Evil games that they just never have remastered or remade. Or
I heard it's because it has some controversial, like, things with incest and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, so they're like, it's one of those things where they're like, it won't jive with the modern audience.
I know it was released on the 360 and stuff because it is backwards compatible for the one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I really am interested, like... Because, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would 100% buy it. Like, if it was, like, a remaster or a remake, I would because I remember looking at it and thinking that it looked better. Because I remember I was playing it at one point, and I was like, I really like this game. But then a kid that I was living with at the time kicked my Xbox and destroyed it.
Fun.
Yeah.
You had so many issues with your 360s.
Dude, I only had 2 360s.
I know, but I always remember something happening to each you had.
Yeah, my first 360, it just stopped reading discs altogether. And then the second one, like, we'd have to be careful if someone breathed on the Xbox or if someone walked by it too fast, it would just go and start destroying games.
It's terrifying.
Dude, it really was.
Anyway, so I would like to kind of go in. I'd kind of like to discuss what we think makes a good remake, and then I'd like to think what we would say a good price for certain remakes would be. Okay.
That seems fair.
So, I think a good remake. I'm a bit indifferent to if I want it to be faithful or a reimagining. I think it really depends on the game for me. If I'm like something like Spyro or something very linear, I think it would work better for it to be a reimagining. Something that's new, not too focused on storing. I'm sorry. We were talking about reimaginings and what was the other one?
Faithful Recreations.
Faithful Recreations. I think something non-linear and or linear, just like something simple, like all those old PS1 platformers, like Medieval, Crash. I think it works better to make those a faithful remake just for nostalgia purposes, and I think it's more fun to go back and play those like that.
Yeah.
But for something more story-driven and something that was really limited by the hardware at the time, like I feel like the games Spyro and Crash were what they were always meant to be.
Yeah, like they made the game how they wanted to make the game. It wasn't like, oh, we'd really like to do this, but we can't because of the current hardware.
Yeah, and anyway, what I always like it when they. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, what's that? It's at the station.
What do you do?
What I'm trying to say is, if it's something more story driven or something that was really limited by hardware at the time, like Final Fantasy VII, I think a remake would do a better job of reimagining the game.
Yeah, like the Resident Evil 2 game.
Yes.
Or Resident Evil 2, or Resident Evil 3. I think at the time they weren't. I don't think they were really limited by the hardware. I think that it was more like they worked within their means, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, we would like to do this, but we can't. It was more like, we're going to do this because this is what we can do, you know?
Yeah. That makes more sense. Final Fantasy VII was probably the same way, but...
Yeah, because it is one of those games that, even today, the original Final Fantasy VII, without a remake or like a remaster and stuff, people... excuse me. Oh my gosh. Look back on that game and can still play it and be like, yes, it's still a good game.
Yeah, and and I think so, but for something really more story driven, I'm always open to see new takes on it, and even something more linear, like the games I was talking about earlier. I prefer linear. I prefer faithful recreations, but I'm always open to a new take. And I think, as a whole, most games, I always like to see something new thrown in. That way, I'm not just buying something with increased graphical fidelity.
Yeah, I can get that.
What's your feelings towards these remake-a-roonies?
I would say I'm similar, but I think that the more faithful a recreation is, not like from a gameplay standpoint, but like if they're like, oh, this is a remake, but then they mess with the story or something, or change things that were in part of the DNA in that game, then that's an issue. Like how there's the KOTOR talks of the KOTOR remakes happening.
Yeah.
Which isn't confirmed or anything, but then there's been a lot of talk saying like, oh, well, if there was a KOTOR remake, then they would have to change these things, or they'd have to take away some of the companions, or, you know, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I think people would be very upset if that remake happened in that way.
Now, what if they... No. I don't like that either. Whenever there is a remake, I want to clarify...
At that point, I don't think it would be a remake anymore. It would be a reimagining.
Yeah. I want to clarify this, too, with what I said about the stories. I like to see new takes on them, but I don't like them to deviate from what the original story was. Mm. If you want to add alternate paths and stuff that give you different outcomes, I think that's always welcome.
Or if you just add things.
Yeah.
Don't take away.
Yeah, like with Final Fantasy VII, I know there's some... there are some character deaths in the game, and if you were able to change those or have a new outcome to them, I think that would be fine. I think that would be I doubt Square Enix would do it because that's more effort than they're willing to put in. Mm-hmm. But if they were to do that and give you, like, even if there was a canon ending and just to see what would play out if the character was saved or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. I think that's fine, and I love it when remakes or something do that. Or like in KOTOR, they give you a new companion.
Yeah.
Or even then, they could give you more endings, more choices and consequences. Mm-hmm. Because it just builds it.
Yeah, the thing about KOTOR is the last time I played it, I really realized how much I loved that game. Like, I've always said that I love KOTOR, but this last playthrough I did of it, like, I really just was like, I'm gonna just play this game like I've never played it before. And I went and I dug through everything. I read lore, you know, I looked at the journals and stuff, you know, just reading all this lore and all that, and then talking to the companions and talking to every single one of them, you know, and figuring out stuff about them that I never figured out before. Excuse me. And if they made a remake and some of those companions were missing, or there wasn't those companions in the game, or they had a whole new set of companions, I would be pretty like upset or hurt that they would call that a remake instead of a reimagining, or just calling it Knights of the Old Republic something else, you know, not like a remake of Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, I can see that, because if you're going to scrap heavy plot elements like that, just don't even, like you were saying earlier, don't even make the remake, just make a new game set in that universe.
Exactly. There's...
I'm surprised you haven't read the Revan books.
Yeah, me too, honestly. Like, because it seems like that would be something that I'd be very into.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, and then talking about Final Fantasy VII, I've never played the original and stuff, and I really think that's also a benefit of remakes.
It gets in a whole new audience.
Yeah, depending on the time, you know, because there has been remakes of games that are like, you know, oh, this is a remake, but it's a game that's 5 years old and it's still in the same generation of consoles, and I'm like, did this really need a remake?
Yeah, a game I didn't think really needed one, but I think the remake turned out really good. It didn't add much. It did give you something. I think it had a new sword into the game. Just a little something for exploring the open world, but I'm actually really excited to be getting that on PlayStation Plus. But the remake...
Shadow of the Colossus?
Yeah.
Oh.
Did I not explain that?
No.
I'm sorry. Yes, Shadow of the Colossus.
I was so confused. Then I was like, what game is he talking about?
I thought I just said the title, and you were like, look at me like, yeah. I'm like, come on, man, you can show some kind of expression on your face.
And then you're all like, and then I'm really excited to get it this month on PlayStation Plus, and I was like, Shadow of the Colossus?
What if I was talking about Sonic Forces? Like, that wouldn't be... Anyway, I didn't really think it needed that much of a remake. I thought the PS3 version looked fine. But then the PS4 version, I was like, holy crap. It's definitely a faithful remake.
Yeah.
But it looks amazing, and
I think that game warrants a remake, though, because of the technology difference between PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4.
But, like, it wasn't really hampered by what was on the PS2 or 3, really.
I heard that it didn't run very well on the PlayStation 2 or 3.
Yeah, I heard the 3 was fine, but 2 not so.
Yeah. I heard that there were stutters and stuff on the 3 version, but I don't know if that's true. Because I never played it, and that's also another thing. Like, I missed out on the PlayStation 2 and 3 versions, so I'm really excited to be able to get to play the PlayStation 4 version.
Yeah.
And same with Resident Evil 2 or 3 or even the original Resident Evil. I wasn't even alive when those games came out.
Yeah.
And I'm able to experience them in this new, more user-friendly way.
Yeah,
And
sometimes it's just... older games are harder for newer gamers to get into. I know, I've thought about getting into some series that have modern games, and I just look back at the old games that don't have remasters or remakes or anything, and I'm like, I really want to get into this, but this game looks so inconvenient to play.
Yeah, I have less of a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just me talking about KOTOR, that game... It is very inconvenient to play at times. It very much shows its age in several aspects.
Well, it's weird because some games don't bother me, but others really do.
I've always really wanted to play Morrowind because people say that game is one of the best Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah.
Just from a story standpoint and a RPG standpoint.
Yeah.
But then the game has these systems in it that are very, very dated. There is literally a speed stat or an acrobatic stat. It's kind of like Oblivion, but Oblivion is more playable than Morrowind.
Oh gosh.
But
you want to talk about games that need remakes? You just look at anything before Skyrim.
Yeah, honestly. But like I was gonna say about Morrowind is that if you look at gameplay, dude, the people are literally moving at freaking foot a minute, dude. They walk so slow.
Are their frames really slow too?
No, it's just the game itself is just old. You know what I mean?
No, I just meant are their movements choppy?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's a smooth playing game, because we have current hardware and stuff.
Well, that's another thing. If an older game is available on current hardware, with upscales and stuff, it doesn't bother me. Playing KOTOR now isn't an issue.
No, the thing that I was saying is that just the gameplay mechanics themselves can be very hard to get past.
Yeah, I guess maybe that game doesn't bother me because I played it when I was younger.
Yeah.
So now going back to it, it's I remember this.
There's that little bit of a nostalgia blindness, I guess.
Yeah.
You're able to look over some stuff because, of the nostalgia. That's kind of how I am with Dragon Age Origins. There is some stuff in the game that... There's a point in Dragon Age Origins, it's the whole Tower of Magi section of that game. I dread it. I hate that whole section of the game. But... I still love that game overall, but that Tower of Magi section is definitely the most aged part of the game. You can definitely tell that it was a game made at in the early 360 PlayStation 3 era.
Yeah.
But there is like I said, there is a lot of I think that's the main benefit of remakes is bringing current ideas or allowing people in a current setting to play them. Because I remember when Resident Evil 2 came out, people were like, oh man, I remember playing this. There's that part, and then I'd be listening to a podcast or oh, I love the part in Resident Evil 2. I'm like, hey, don't say it. There's people that haven't played it. And then they're all like, what do you mean? It's a freaking 20-year-old game. They're like, yeah, and there's people that just turned 20 years old today. They're like, oh, I guess you're right.
Well, I am very conflicted about the spoiler side of remakes because, on one hand, it is a 20-year-old game. With Final Fantasy VII, I've only started playing through the original compilation because I keep getting spoiled like crazy.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that, the first part of the remake's coming out, just wait. And I'm like, no, I know, stuff towards the end that'll probably be in, the third part of the remake or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm I just want to get it over with so I can't be spoiled anymore. But at the same time, I want them to discuss it and stuff because it's their game being remade. And I don't really think there should be such strict spoiler limitations on a 20-year-old game.
I can see that standpoint, but for me, I have stayed away from Resident Evil 7 spoilers and stuff, and I played that demo and stuff, and I was even scared to play the demo if I'm being honest, because I was like, because I wasn't sure what the demo encompassed.
For what?
Final Fantasy 7.
Oh, okay. You said.
Did I say Resident Evil 7? Oh.
I was like, that's not a remake.
But Final Fantasy 7, I was scared to play the demo because a lot of demos, especially currently, they'll just drop you in at a random point in the game, especially if it's a remake.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just drop you in at a random point in the game, and then you're just like sitting there, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know what was happening, but it was cool.
Yeah.
And I was worried that there would be like, they'd drop you in at like some climactic point in the game or whatever.
Yeah.
Just to show you like, oh, look, we remade this, you know. But it was just the starting bit.
Yeah. And it wasn't that big in the beginning. They kind of just made it impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess the spoiler side of thing is very perspective based because again, you have this old audience wanting to discuss one of their favorite games or a game they like being brought back in this new and cool way, and you have another audience who just wants to
experience it.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah, I have never excuse me. Wait. Bless you.
Bless you. Everybody bless him.
Bless you.
Bless you. Blesses.
But so like I was gonna say, I never played or really knew anything about Final Fantasy VII. All I know is that there's the spoiler of the one girl that dies.
Which one?
I don't know. I just know there's that famous scene of the girl getting stabbed.
Oh, Aerith?
Yeah.
That's not a spoiler because everyone knows it.
Yeah, literally everyone knows that, okay? And then if you don't know that, you probably don't know anything about video games. Yeah, because it's just like literally everyone knows that spoiler.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I know about the game. That's it.
Yeah. And
I really want to stay away from everything else. And I really hope when that point happens in the remakes or whatever, that I'm emotionally impacted by that. Because I remember seeing, I watched a compilation one time of people seeing, like it was like a compilation of people seeing Aerith die the first time, and everyone was almost in tears or was crying when it happened.
Yeah. And like, now I don't want, I heard there will be like subtle changes for Cloud to like, pick a girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah.
For the first part, and it doesn't make me want to pick Aerith because I know she's gonna die, and that's another reason why I want the remake to be unpredictable. I want you to be able to have maybe the option to save Aerith, just to switch things up a little bit. Yeah. Get a result you couldn't get in the original game, and I remember I've heard people like going back and playing it just try to get a different outcome. So how cool would it be if the person could get a different outcome?
Yeah, I remember people, I remember watching this video and it was talking about how people didn't believe that Aerith was, like, actually dead. And that there was, like, this article that came out in a magazine talking about how you could revive Aerith or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the Mew under the truck thing.
Yeah. Like, I kind of wish I lived in that era of video games.
Where you couldn't really know, everything was a mystery.
Yeah, I remember, we did kind of grow up in that era, like, a little bit, like, because I remember being a little kid, and, like, not, like, I don't really remember it, but, like, between the ages of me being, like, between, up until the age I was 10 years old, I remember before that, people, like, I'll be, like, sitting there watching someone play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I don't even think I was born when that game came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember people sitting there and going like, man, I heard there's Bigfoot in the woods in this game. And
no, you were definitely born.
I was?
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't like 1999 when that game came out?
San Andreas?
Yeah.
It was released on the PS2 and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The PS2 wasn't released till like 2002.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess. But I remember like sitting there and I'd be I wasn't allowed to play the game, but I was able to watch people play, which is
I've never understood that
thing.
logic.
Yeah.
It's my parents did the same thing. They're like, if you're controlling it, it's worse.
Yeah, like you'd be sitting there watching people cut people up in Gears of War, and then you're all like, "Can I play, Mom?" And then they'd be like, "No." You'd be like, "Oh, okay." But I remember seeing that kind of stuff, or I remember whenever Call of Duty World at War came out, there was the zombies mode in that game. But people said that after that game came out and there was the zombies mode, people said, "Oh, and the other Call of Duty, if you kill so many people or whatever, a zombies mode gets unlocked." So people would go through and replay the game over and over and over again just to get their kill count to a certain level.
Yeah.
But there was no zombies game,
Yeah.
There was no zombies mode.
I remember I'd make up stuff for myself to try to get. Like, I'd convince myself it was in the game. Like, oh, there's an alternate ending to Kingdom Hearts 2 where you get to play as Roxas and stuff. I remember going back and playing through it, and I just make it up in my head. I'm like, it's in there.
I remember stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't make it up, but I remember someone would just tell me something like, "Oh, I heard in this game, once you kill that final boss, if you like run to the back door or something before it closes, you'll get another boss." And I'd be like, "Oh, really?"
Bus guy.
What?
Bus guy.
Who was Bus Guy?
The one who's really into football.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd just tell us stuff, and I'd be like, "Really?"
Yeah, he was a year younger than us, and he'd always feed us a bunch of bull crap. He didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah, and then I remember eventually I found it out whenever I started giving him bull crap, and he was like, "Yeah!
Yeah, and you're
yeah!"
like, you don't know what you're talking about, Bus Guy.
Yeah. But I remember him telling me stuff about Kingdom Hearts, like, in the first town or whatever, or like, what's the town that you go to whenever...
Traverse Town.
Yeah, Traverse Town. In the first Kingdom Hearts, I remember someone telling me, "Oh, you can open up this door and it will lead you to this secret boss." And I was like, "Really?" Mm-hmm. And I remember I would sit there and I probably played for hours on in that one town trying to figure out a way to get into a door.
Okay. I know that part of time was kind of cool, but now that you're talking about it, it's bringing back a bunch of things for me where, like, I didn't know things, and I just waste time on these very annoying parts, and there would be no outcome.
Yeah.
Because you were just a stupid kid and you thought it'd work.
Yeah, but like you were saying, like giving an alternate path or something, I think that could kind of... I don't know about that. If, like, it's something... Like, I think Final Fantasy VII wouldn't be the game to do that in.
I mean...
Because it is such an iconic story and stuff.
I mean, like, you can have a canon... I want there to be, like, a canon path for the trilogy, and then I want there to be a non-canon path. Because there's also an expanded universe to Final Fantasy VII that I like. I would just like for there to be an alternate set of events. Some people are really against that, and I don't really understand why. Like, even in Telltale games at the end, I like payoff for something, so even if it's non-canon, I like to see how my choices played out. So if I could have some indirect choices in Final Fantasy VII, at least leading through the main trilogy of games, you'd have the canon story where Aerith dies and all that, but you'd also have a branching path where Aerith didn't die, and it's just more like a what-if scenario. And fans of the older game can finally see what would happen if Aerith didn't die.
I could see that point of view. I understand where you're coming from, but I think it would be like almost offensive, I guess, to people that have played it, or just the source material itself. Because what if someone is playing it for the first time, like, somehow they don't know Aerith dies, and then they accidentally do the ending where Aerith doesn't die. And then someone that's played it before is all like, "Oh, how'd you feel when Aerith died?" And then they're all like, "What do you mean Aerith died?"
Well, that's with any game, though, that has branching paths.
Yeah, but I don't think I don't think you should add branching paths into a game that didn't have them before.
I mean, like, I think it's fun. It just adds something to go back into,
Yeah.
And then you could even just, like, there's people who will do lore playthroughs on games like that anyway.
Yeah. I get it. Like, that's part of the fun where I get with RPGs and stuff, is going back through and being like, what happens if I do this differently, and then getting the different ending,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know, man.
You're, like, conflicting yourself with your main complaint about JRPGs.
I understand that. Like, okay, I think I've become more comfortable with a JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember whenever I heard the word RPG, I would think, oh, I'm going to be able to create my character and make these choices and stuff, But now I'm all like, oh, it's a JRPG. It's a different thing.
Yeah, and even the original Final Fantasy VII always had these choices. It would lead to different scenes with characters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it did something really cool where your gameplay would affect choices too. So if you failed something in the gameplay, then it would lead to a different scenario.
Mm.
Which I liked. So I think it'd be cool if I heard they're keeping that too, to where if you do certain things in the gameplay, it'll affect scenarios. So I think it would just be cool if the game kept that sort of choice and consequence it kind of had, and just evolve on it a little more. I'd even like it anyway, that probably won't happen. I think me and you have both adequately expressed our views on that. You're kind of more against it than I am.
Yeah.
But you're still slightly open to it, I think.
I think it, like I said, I think it depends on the remake or what the game is. You know what I mean? If it was let's go back to the KOTOR example. If it was a KOTOR remake and they had the original story and then they had all the original paths, but then they're like, oh, and then we're also adding a neutral path, or we're adding a path where you kill this character. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
As long as there is still that source material there, and it was already a game that had several branching paths and stuff. But Final Fantasy VII, it has like these main story beats that always happen no matter what, every time you play through.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I just like to add some spice. I like to see what would happen. And it's being worked on by the same guy who originally directed it, so I'd like to see what his ideas would be.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
On other paths. And yeah. I don't think either way of our ways of thinking are necessarily wrong. It's just different.
Oh, no, definitely not.
I feel like more people probably agree with your point of view, but and it's probably what's going to happen, because I doubt they'd put in the extra effort.
Yeah, to have a whole new set of events happen.
Yeah, but it's just something I think is interesting. But it brings me to another question, is how should remakes affect their expanded universes? Resident Evil, I don't really think the remakes they're making are really hurting the expanded universe. I think it's staying pretty lore friendly.
Yeah, it is. Both Resident Evil remakes have been very faithful to the originals. Like, they have the same story and story beats and all that. It's not like they're changing anything,
Mm-hmm. Now, the Final Fantasy VII remake, they're wanting to get away from the compilation that they created and kind of spawn their own new expanded Final Fantasy VII universe from this remake.
Really?
Yeah. But they said they'll keep in consideration for what fans like, and there are some integral characters in 7 that had their own games that explained some very important character motives and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fine, but I think they should, and one of my favorite games in the compilation, Crisis Core, I heard they can't remake it because they used the face of a J-pop star, and they had him under contract, and they don't have the contract anymore. Like, it ran out, so they can't use his likeness anymore, but they also can't change it because of what the contract said.
Really?
Yeah, so they just can't do anything with that game. I've heard that's why. I don't know for sure, but it would make sense. It's an immensely popular game, and it's kind of weird that it never had a remaster.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think if in the remake, if they want to do their own thing, and they still want to have a compilation, I think it should be done in DLCs. You still have your main game, you have this full game, and you can have these character side stories that may work like expansion packs being developed alongside the main game, and then you can have one for each. Like, Advent Children came after Final Fantasy VII, so I'm assuming it's going to be a 3-part trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes the most sense to me. So, Advent Children storyline could be an expansion because it continues the story. It could go after 7, the final installment. There was Crisis Core, which was which was a prequel, so you could put that in the first one. And then there was a small little phone game, which I think they could include in there too.
Yeah.
Just as a shorter, like maybe $5-10 DLC.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a friendly way to add it in, without taking development time away.
That's a very like specific example. You know, I don't know anything about it, so I can't really say anything. But like,
I think that's how it should be modeled for anything that has a series and they want to spawn their own path, and they're making the mainline games. Say Kingdom Hearts also.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted to remake all the main games, I think they should also have some spin-off games as DLC.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts on that. Resident Evil, that's a bit of a different cookie because they have so many spin-offs.
Yeah, they have a lot of games. I've heard that you only need to really play the mainline games, and then like Resident Evil 0, Code Veronica, and then I think there's one other game that I can't think of right now.
Yeah, so maybe you could have I don't know which one Code Veronica is attached to, but you could have like that game, and then you could have Code Veronica attached to it as it's like a $40 expansion to it, like Witcher did.
Mm-hmm.
And then it could also be released physically, so you don't need to have 3.
Yeah.
Or whatever it came bundled with to play it. And I really like that approach to it.
Yeah, I could see that working. And it depends on the game or how it's set up and stuff.
Yeah, and if it's an expansion, you kind of expect reused assets and stuff, so it makes it a lot quicker to throw it together.
Oh, yeah.
That's just my 2 cents on an expanded universe being implemented into a remake series.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of anything else I have to say. Like, we've been talking a lot about, like, remakes kind of going off the path that they were set on.
Yeah.
But then I also, I think we need to talk a little bit more about the faithful type of remakes.
What else there to talk about, baby?
Well, I think that also, gives people a chance to experience the game in a way that is still familiar to people that have played it before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, playing the Resident Evil 2 remake, someone who played the original Resident Evil 2 isn't going to be all like, oh man, this brings back so many memories. I remember this exact... Well, I mean, it can, because, it is a remake. But, I remember, they're not going to see it the same way because it's a different game.
It wouldn't be like hopping into the Reignited trilogy.
Yeah, they'd be, sitting there and they're like, oh my god, this is exactly how I remember it, but it looks a million times better.
Yeah.
And then there also is, it feels better, just to hop into a game and then just have those quality of life changes and stuff that, may have stopped you from playing it before.
Yeah. Both certainly have their benefits.
I think the one way to not do a remake, though, is the way that Medieval did it.
Yeah.
And they kept everything that was not good about the game in it.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be too faithful, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they heard all these complaints where, they changed this and they're like, oh, guys, we got you. We're just going to make it look better.
Yeah. I've heard some similar complaints to Shadow of the Colossus, but then a lot of people are all like, but that's part of the game, I guess.
It's part of the charm.
Yeah, I guess. There is an update, the controls were updated and stuff, but they're still not standardized, I guess, in the Shadow of the Colossus remake. But ooh, that's making a weird sound.
He's scratching his pre-beard.
Yeah, my whenever you don't shave for like 2 days, that type of beard.
Yeah.
It's not really there, but then it's still there. Yeah, but Shadow of the Colossus and Medieval, I've heard that both of them really didn't make things easier, I guess. I heard Shadow of the Colossus does like play smoother and stuff, and then there is some things that like just didn't make sense in the original that do make sense now because they slightly changed the controls and stuff. But like, it's still doesn't control standard, you know? And then it still feels like a game that's a little off.
The one thing Medieval did do right though is I think every remake should have this and bundle the original game into it.
Yeah, or have you be able to access it in some way. But I could see that working for Spyro or Crash or Medieval, but because they are faithful remakes. But then I think it would be harder for them to do it for like a Resident Evil 2 or 3 or Final Fantasy 7.
If it's something faithful, I want it like just so you can compare.
Yeah.
But if it's not faithful, I don't really see a point.
Yeah.
And a lot of unfaithful remakes were made by bigger companies anyway, and you know they want that old game money.
Oh yeah, they definitely do.
But I think it's weird that Spyro or Crash didn't do it because you can't buy the old games anyway.
Oh yeah. Do you remember like all those like Crash games that came out for like PlayStation 2?
The ones made by Activision?
Yeah. Then there's I think they came out on PlayStation 3 as well.
Yeah, and Xbox 360.
Yeah. And then I remember people were like making it a big deal that the Insana trilogy was on Xbox. I'm like, there was other Crash games already on Xbox, guys.
Yeah.
But they weren't the mainline Crash games, but
it's still owned by Activision.
Yeah.
I remember I wanted to play Crash Mind Over Mutant. It was one of the later ones.
Oh yeah, and you could like control monsters and stuff in it.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I really want to play that. I remember seeing ads for it all the time on TV.
Yeah, and like they're like it was like control the monster and stuff, and
yeah.
And then like it had I remember the cover. I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah, it was illustrated and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh yeah. I was like, Mom, can I get it? She's like, no. I said, why? She said it has animated blood. I was like, aww.
I remember you had an argument with me one time that animated blood was robot parts.
I think that's what I used on my mom, or what she told me she thought it was.
Yeah, and I was like, no, animated blood is just like blood that isn't like regular blood.
Yeah, it's
and
like green or something.
Yeah, and you were all like, no, because I have this game and you fight robots in it. And there's nothing that has like blood.
It's probably like Attack of the Toy Bots or something.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think so, CJ. I'm like, there's definitely at some point like you hit something and like some goo comes out or whatever.
Nope.
You're like, no, all you fight is robots. And I was like, but I have this game, this game right here.
No.
It's
Wrong.
And then I remember you told me, like, I remember you were reading the back. I was reading the back of Kingdom Hearts 2, and then there's the Parts of the Caribbean world.
Yeah.
And then there's one part wherever they cut their hand or something, and then they just put blood on something.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was telling you about how there's blood in Kingdom Hearts, and you were telling me, you were like, dude, don't say anything. And I was like, why? And you're like, my mom won't let me play it anymore. And I was like, why, dude? It's only one part. And you're like, dude, shut up. You're like, dude, don't say anything. And I was like, oh.
I think my mom actually was pretty serious about that. Like, I remember playing Pirates of the Caribbean world in Kingdom Hearts 2, and my mom was like, oh no. She was getting really scared. It was just too real for her. She couldn't take those crossbow-holding pirate. Did you hear? Oh, but here's a fun fact for you guys. In Kingdom Hearts 2, in the American and Western versions, the pirates that you fight hold crossbows, but in the Japanese versions, they use guns.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because when they were localizing it, it would have given them too high of a rating, so they had to change it to crossbows.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. But there's guns in games that, like...
Yeah, I know, and they still use guns in cutscenes, and,
Well, that's so weird.
I know. Oh, the real blood also comes out of the pirates. I think.
Huh.
It's not like a lot. Like, they're not like gushing blood.
Yeah, but I remember, like, yeah, I remember a specific scene where they cut their hand and there's blood and they sprinkle it over something.
Yeah. No, it wasn't in the Pirates world. It's in the Hercules world, and the Hydra, whenever you hit it, in the Japanese version, green goo comes out, but in our version, darkness comes out.
That's so odd that there's, like, that stuff. Like, I've always heard that Japan, like, their games are always, like, a little bit more lenient. Yeah. I guess, like, on the rating system. Like, there'll be girls with, like, giant boobs and cleavage and stuff.
Yeah.
And in Japan, it's rated E10, but then it'll come over here and it'll be rated teen.
Yeah. Sexuality is much more expressive in Japanese games.
Oh, yeah.
I still find it so odd that Nintendo now has the most openly sexual console. Because now Sony, you have to censor things and stuff.
Yeah.
Xbox too.
Xbox, you don't have to censor anything.
Oh, you don't? Mm. Japanese games just don't like going over there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the big deal with Sony's censorship rules are. You're making money, you're making money. I don't play like any of those guys. I don't play Senran Kagura or any of that, but I just find it kind of bizarre.
Yeah,
and I'm just not a fan of censorship anyway.
Yeah, I remember looking at the difference between the Xbox and PlayStation versions of Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
5. And oh crap, I bought it for PlayStation. Man, there's really dumb censorship in the PlayStation version of Devil May Cry 5. Like, there's a really weird, like, lens flares that come out of nowhere. Like, there's just, like, I remember seeing the comparison, like, the Xbox version, like, he's carrying a girl, and it's, like, all dark and stuff, and, like, you can see, like, just a little bit of the girl's butt.
Yeah.
But then it said the PlayStation version, and everything was, like, super bright. There was just a white spot over the girl's butt, and I was just like, what the heck?
They did something like that in Kingdom Hearts 2 also, and Kingdom Hearts 2 on the Japanese version, if you look up Kairi's skirt, you'll actually see her underwear.
Really?
Yeah, but in the American version, you don't see anything. It's just black.
Huh. Odd.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting into an entirely different topic.
Yeah.
You think it's about time for recommendations?
Yeah, let's go ahead and recommend some stuff.
Alright. I recommend playing Final Fantasy VII before it comes out, because goodness knows what the remake's gonna stir up. You're gonna get spoiled if you're in any like JRPG circles or just anything that follows the 7 remake. You're definitely gonna get some spoilers towards future events that won't even be in the first part of the remake. So just play through at least the original game.
Is that all you're recommending?
Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend.
Oh wait! Play through the remastered version. It's better.
Okay.
You go.
I'm gonna I'm gonna recommend the Amity Affliction's new album. They're a metalcore band. I really enjoy them. They a lot of their songs are about pretty dark, heavy material and stuff, and I think they handle it in a really good way. And it helped me get through a lot of that band, and I really like their new album. And another thing I want to recommend was... Oh, crap.
Do you know what my favorite pretty dark heavy material is?
What?
Cobalt.
Wow. Another thing I wanted to recommend was, if you play D&D, play against class, guys. It makes the most interesting characters, okay? There's nothing cooler than a freaking gnome barbarian, okay? Or freaking half orc rogue, you know, like that kind of stuff is just really cool, or even a Goliath rogue, you know, that kind of stuff is just really fun, and it makes for really interesting and sometimes funny characters. And
You have burned the image of a gnome barbarian into my
that's
head.
what my little sister is.
She's a gnome barbarian?
Yeah, when we play, she's a gnome barbarian.
I guess in real life, too.
Yeah, I guess so. I remember we were playing and stuff, and I almost have a hard time describing what she's doing and stuff, because she's 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
And she was fighting this guy that was 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
And I said, like, and she did a critical roll, and I was like, all right, so you jump up, and you leap off the ground, like, literally 8 feet into the air, and you smash this guy's head in with your maul. And I'm just like, in my head, I just imagine this tiny girl, like, just like, it's just like, and the guy's like, oh god. You know?
Yeah.
Just imagine this tiny, like, super bulky gnome, just like,
That's amazing.
yeah, but, yeah, play against class, even in regular games, just video games, if you like RPGs and stuff, and like, you know, there's the really big, buff, strong race, you know, play him as a rogue, you know, it adds new challenges to the game, and it makes things a little bit interesting.
Yeah, or like in Kingdom Hearts, play as Donald Duck.
That's not possible. That was one of those things, remember, you used to think we could, like, switch between the characters?
Yeah, I remember I beat myself with the controller because I was like, I'm so stupid, I can't figure out how to do it.
Because I remember playing the Lion King world in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I was like, I want to be Simba.
Yeah!
I remember I was like, I want to be Simba so bad.
Yeah! And you try.
Dude, I tried so hard.
It's like you get on that menu screen and you're like, why can't I select other characters if I can't be them?
Yeah, dude, it just... that kind of stuff. And I remember my dad even told me, he's like, yeah, I think there's a way to do it, but I don't know.
Your dad's so weird sometimes.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, my dad was probably on the same level of intelligence I was when I was 8 years old.
Remember that one night we saw your dad and so what happened was I was spending the night at his house, and we were it's time to go to sleep, so we were probably about in 5th grade at the time. Anyway, his dad sits down. He had Trials Evolution, I think.
Trials HD.
Trials HD on the 360, and he
started downloading the maps that people create.
Yeah, what was it, like at 8 or 10?
Yeah, it was probably around there, like, if not a little bit earlier, like maybe like 7 or 8, maybe 9.
Probably 9.
Yeah. And so me and CJ went to bed. All right. And, you know, we stayed up a little late and stuff. And I remember I walked out and I kept seeing my dad, and he was still sitting there just scrolling down the list, downloading these maps. And I was like, hey, Dad, you going to go to bed soon? He's like, yeah. And then me and CJ, we went to bed, and then we woke up the next morning at, like, what time?
6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7, maybe 8. And we got up, and my dad was still sitting on the couch downloading maps. And I was like, Dad, have you been awake this whole time? And he looked at me, and his eyes were so bloodshot. And he just looked at me, and he just nodded his head yes. And then he just set the controller down and went to bed. And you want to know the funny thing?
What?
That Xbox broke like a week later, and he never got to play any of those maps. Yeah.
That's so sad.
Like, man, my dad did so much stuff. And I remember my dad used to tell me that used to like tell us that, and even today, he's like, I don't want you guys to sell any of your games or give any of them away. And I'm all like, why? And he's like, because we paid money for them. And I'm like, yes, I'm aware.
So you sell them so you can get something else with money.
Yeah. The games that you don't play anymore.
It's like an experience, but it's refundable almost.
Yeah.
Or you can get something back for it.
Yeah, but he doesn't think that.
It's not like... It's kind of like going roller skating, because you can keep coming back to it, but you're like, okay, I don't want to go roller skating anymore. Give me 25% of what I paid for this, and I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I've never understood that when they're like, I bought you that game. It's like, it's a video game. I'm not going to hold sentimental value onto it.
There is games that I have sentimental value on, though.
Well, like, I can understand it. Like, if it's very near and dear to your heart or nostalgic, but, like, if my mom went and got me the new GTA for Christmas or something,
yeah,
and then I go sell it because I want to get Fire Emblem, and I've already played GTA, I'm not, like, it's not going to be emotional to me.
Man, dude, I'm so disappointed in some of your decisions and games that you sold.
Why?
Because you sold The Witcher 3. Man.
To clarify, I got Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and here's the thing. Here is why I do that. I do that because if I have a lot of games in my backlog, I start to get overwhelmed and I break down. So, to battle that, I sell games to get games I really want to play for free, and then that cuts down my backlog, and I play what I want to play.
Alright, I gotcha, I guess.
Yeah, it's just some weird head thing I have to deal with. My head doesn't let me have like 7 games I haven't played over on the shelf.
But I'm pretty sure you do.
I do. I don't think about it. I haven't looked at it.
I don't think about it. I don't look at it.
I've been downloading a lot of my games recently.
If they're digital, it isn't as bad.
It doesn't. It's not as bad. I don't think about it. It's weird.
But then you go and lay down at night and you just stare at them and you're like, oh God.
I've got so much I need to do. Because I look at it like a chore. If I see a bunch of games I haven't played, it's like, I have to play those.
You can't get rid of Red Dead Redemption 2.
I'm never going to have time to play it.
Yes, you will.
It's such a long game.
Yeah, and so was freaking Persona 5. You seem to play that just fine.
I enjoy that game more, and you're never going to play Persona 5.
Yeah, I will.
No, you won't.
I'll try.
You see that now. That's like me with Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm like, yeah, I'll try. I'll get there eventually. And it never happens. It doesn't. It's just one of those games that you want to play, kind of, but you just never get there because something always comes up.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is a really, really good game, though.
So is Persona 5?
Yeah, but it's Japanese, so it's not as good.
This is over. Bye, guys!